Have you tried to get from Albany to Crooksaki on the thruway lately? Not easy. They've got all of the traffic down to one lane. And the lane isn't even on pavement. Half the time, one tire's on a rumble strip and the other is in the dirt. And you see the signs as you're approaching the construction. Single lane ahead, road narrows. But this is how it usually goes. So everybody starts to merge into the one lane, but not everybody, because somebody will go right down the road, and then you can see, if you look, their brake lights way, way, way up as they then jut right in at the end. And then everyone else's brake lights start in front of me. It would be so easy if we would just zipper in, right? You, then you, then you, then you, then you, but no. People always do that, where they think we can fit a bunch of people through that lane all at once. And that's what makes the trip hell. Jesus says, one day, your life is going to narrow down to a single lane. And you're going to need to pass all by yourself through a spot with no shoulders. No room for anyone else, just you on this journey. So that single lane doesn't mean we need to be afraid. It just means we need to be accountable. We are going to be going on our own through that single lane. You know, this gospel is meant to be kind of a mic drop. It's meant to be that. It's meant to get our attention. But it may not sound like Jesus to you. You might say, that doesn't sound like the Jesus I know. But you know, that's because he may not be talking to you. I'll tell you what I mean about that. Jesus is talking to all different audiences in the gospel. And sometimes he's talking to a large crowd. And sometimes he's talking just to his inner circle. And today, he's talking to a specific group of people who need this message, and it may not be you. Parents are going to get this right away. If you're a parent and you have more than one child with multiple personalities in the family, you might have one of your children be a super responsible, nervous type. The kind who's prone to tears, does all of their work all the time, sometimes takes life a little bit too seriously. They're often the firstborn. And if that child comes up to you, that intense, dutiful, nervous child, and says, some friends have invited me to go out tonight, can I go? You're going to say, absolutely, honey. Here's the keys to the car. Stay out all night. Don't think about a thing. Don't bring any work with you. You might have another child in the same family who you have to watch a little more closely. Maybe they're the kid that you've created a ritual where you have to kiss them when they come home at night, just so you can smell their breath. They're the ones that when you're doing the laundry, you take an extra careful look through their pockets. That child might, on the same night, ask the same question. Some friends and I are going to go out. Is that okay? And the answer might be, nope, you're in for the night. Why the two different messages from the one parent? The same reason Jesus is giving us some messages today. He's speaking specifically to those people who need this. Not the nervous oldest child, not the dutiful ones, but the ones who need to hear it. The ones who think that the bouncer at the gates of heaven should just, move that narrow gate for them and their friends just this one time. For the people who think that the way to get through the construction zone on the thruway is to zoom to the front and then make everyone else try to wait. The church teaches this way too. You just heard me say that 2 weeks ago we had a holy day of obligation. Some people will talk about the fact that Sunday Mass is an obligation. And to some people that is really offensive language. Obligation? Why would you say that? It's like saying you have an obligation to love your children and treat your spouse with respect. Why is that an obligation? Isn't that just part of the package? But you see, for people who love going to church, there's no need to say obligation. In fact, it's counterproductive. There are people here right now who say, I couldn't go a week without church. I would fall apart. Those people don't need an obligation. It's the people who say, is it Sunday again? God wants to talk to me? Those are the ones that need to hear, yeah, you gotta get yourself into church because actually it's an obligation. So that's what's happening today. And for those of you who are nervous firstborns, and I know you're out there, to make sure that you would be okay, the church gave us the first reading that says, here's who's going to heaven. People from the east and the west and the north and the south. People who are from the Luddites and the Gajabajabites and the names you can't pronounce, which is meant to show us everybody's invited. God's looking to bring people in from all over the world, from all different traditions, brown and red and white and yellow. And that reading helps the nervous older child to say, okay, that's the God I know. That's a familiar message. But that message is needed too because there's some other people here who might hear, what? Who did he say is invited? Are you kidding? I better rethink if I want to go. You see how those two messages are needed in different ways by different people? So this is the thing we've got to think about. Part of life is accountability. We know that. Part of life is accountability. And when that lane of ours narrows, we've got to be able to say we're willing to be accountable for the way our path has been. We're willing to own the choices that we've made. Often on 9W, there'll be a sobriety checkpoint. I don't know why it happens so much, but I find that that's a hot spot for sobriety checkpoints. So sometimes I'll be going through, and I've thought to myself, all right, this is the moment. Everyone has to be accountable in that moment for their condition. And it's only the driver. You can't use any excuses. You can't say, yeah, I may be drunk, but I'm in a hurry, so can we do this later? You can't say, I may be drunk, but my friend is sober, so I'm just gonna... No. It's us, each of us, in that moment, with accountability. So this week we're being invited to consider, how am I walking my path? Am I ready for the lane to narrow? Is there something that needs to be dealt with in my life because I wouldn't be ready to account for it? I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't be able to give a good reason why that's the way it is. It's important for us as we ask this question because it can make so many people nervous to realize that God does not want to keep people out of heaven. And this is one of those things that parents are going to get right away. It would do God no good to keep you out of heaven. It would hurt God more than it would hurt you to be kept out of heaven. But that doesn't take away the fact that accountability is a part of life. All of us need to go through the toll booth one by one, and there's no easy pass. We have to do the work in life. We've got to keep working on our relationship with God. We've got to keep trying and learning how to love each other better. Because no one can go through that narrow lane for us. We got to go alone. And that's why we're accountable.